Some of you can probably recall times when you could only watch helplessly after a single mistake led to a long combo that eventually destroyed your entire party. After reading this newsletter, Dragon Ball Legends 2 is real. You're a Dragon Ball fan, you don't really want to read, but I advise you read this letter. There's a lot of writing and I've read it, so I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this newsletter. They're doing a lot, and I mean a lot, more than they've ever done in their whole 7 years. If you feel like the Dragon Ball Legends experience in PvP, playing the game in general just isn't great because of overpowered units, things that you can't overcome, and making one mistake and fumbling the whole game because of it, well, a lot of that they're planning to correct starting from April, which is insane. I'm gonna give my 2 cents on everything in this newsletter, any good things, any bad things, and of course my thoughts going forward in 2025 and onwards. Let's get into this. So we're gonna start with this first segment, and I'm gonna call it complexity because I'm going to be discussing how they mention complexity in this newsletter. Regarding complexity, they spoke about it a lot, saying that in every new kit that we get, the further we go down along the line, every unit's kit has a lot more writing and it's getting very hard to keep up. Imagine being a new player starting Legends in 2025 April and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a fun Dragon Ball game, I love the anime. Then you're hit with plagues of paragraphs with text and formats that you'd never seen before. It's just not going to be the easiest to understand, even for veteran players. And if you guys watch me in streams, I often forget units kits all the time. Unless I have a pure interest in them or I just fight them a lot, things can just slip my mind just like that because there's so much writing, it makes it difficult to understand. It's not that it's hard and it's not that I don't understand, I just don't like cramming all that knowledge. So the way people's kits are designed, it makes it very, very difficult to retain all of that, especially for new players, but even veteran players will struggle with that. And that's something they actually mentioned in the newsletter. That's not just my headcanon, they wrote it just like that. They're being very honest and vulnerable with their releases and how they've gone about designing things and possible horrible gaming experiences they've created during the time Dragon Ball Legends has been released. And I think that's beautiful. They've never been this honest, I think, and I respect that a lot. So just in general, if you're annoyed about the lengths in kits, you know, understanding the paraphrasing, for example, when it says nullify special actions that activate when changing cover, they're gonna make terms that make it easier to understand. So it just might be nullify special actions, and that would be it because everybody understands. I can't say exactly everything that's going to be changed because they're still working on things, but they've explained that moving forward from April and for new kits, it will be simpler, and I imagine they will reform kits that already exist in the game, so you don't have to worry too much about things being overly complicated. You know, it's going to be a lot simpler for all of us Dragon Ball fans that don't want to read. That's great. I think something important you'd actually want to know straight away is that they're going to be making direct changes in the gameplay experience. So I'm just going to touch on some things that they mentioned because they were very specific. They gave a list of issues, so I'm just going to mention some of the issues that they brought up. The first one would be the homogenization of abilities. So that just means making things that are similar. That's what it means. And there's a couple things that come under that. So there's an increase in characters with high combo power. There's an increase in complexity and length of character abilities. And how they plan on fixing these things is that they will be making adjustments to combo incorporations, so side steps and combos, things like that. And then they will also make adjustments to activation, timing, and length of special cover change nullification. On top of that, adjustments to length and activation opportunities for element disadvantage nullification, so type neutral against damage sustained in general. Even adjustments to disruption and key recovery in general, not just key recovery, but they give very specific examples with almost every single issue that they addressed here, which is pretty nice. So for example, when it comes to the activation timing and length for special cover changes, they talk about the new Legends Limited Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, who only gets 5 timer counts of nullification, which is quite wild. And then when they talked about the type neutral and the element disadvantage, they mentioned 2 specific characters that we will know that a lot of people downplayed, but I'll say one of them. The second one, people downplayed but quickly realized that the unit was just good enough. The first one, Super Saiyan God Goku. On release, he released with Ultimate Gohan. It's just not a good environment for him. Then on top of that, they dropped G4 right after that. So naturally, him being put in an unfavorable position, which they mentioned is just nasty work. Then obviously after G4, we got Omega Shenron. Omega Shenron being green, even though he's type neutral almost every single time, you know, he gets that quite consistently. He's green, and having those 2 OP purples in the game puts them at element disadvantage, especially if you're playing exactly not perfect. So it's easy to melt those guys, you know? You gotta be wary about things like that, and they've honestly addressed that. So they plan to make things like that better. And then I mentioned with the key recovery thing, they plan to, where it would say, this is an example they gave, reduce key by 40, they would now make it so that you actually reduce key by 20, but instead of it being a thing where the combo gets stopped, then the damage you take will just be less, because you have higher guard, meaning that you're able to just take less damage. You'll be taking way less damage as a result, which obviously is a benefit to you versus you potentially just half-heartedly breaking their combo. Yes, you'll break their combo less, but now you will take way less damage too. So depending on how they go about this, this could be good. That one scares me a little bit. They also said they're going to change the name. So sustained damage cut will become damage guard. That's the new name for it. There's also another specific example where they talk about cover change being changed. So it would say nullifies enemies special actions that activate when changing cover. That is now being changed to nullify special cover changes. Very simple stuff that is easy to understand, that makes it just more playable. And I think that's nice. Now, I know I just touched on this a tiny bit from the previous point, but I'm just going to address honesty. I want it to be its own section in this video because they were very honest about situations we had in Dragon Ball Legends. I'm just going to list some of them right now. Basically, at the start of the game, they had a large set of differences in characters. And now, as more things go along, they've had to, in a sense, put together those differences in the same units. So all the units that are being released are basically looking very, very similar. There's no differences, no large sense of differences in the units, which is why they use the word homogenization. Hard word to say. I swear I've never seen this word before. Shout out the devs for increasing the Dragon Ball fan base's vocab. But essentially, there's been a lack of individual characteristics, which is obviously a downside. Every single unit, you expect them to have the same things or they're not going to be able to keep up. So they specifically mentioned the tag regeneration. Back in the day, if you played early doors, they were the healing monsters, but now everybody just heals. They mentioned the issues with combo capabilities. One specifically, one line, and this is probably my favorite line in the whole newsletter. Some of you can probably recall times when you could only watch helplessly after a single mistake led to a long combo that eventually destroyed your entire party. That is the reality of Dragon Ball Legends, possibly post 2024. If you make one mistake, your team could be wraps. So you need to really lock in. But having to lock in isn't a good way to have you deal with the situation. It's simply just bad design if I make one mistake, and because of that, it's over. So they're addressing that, and that's nice. I spoke about the disadvantage with elements. They specifically brought up God Goku and Omega Shenron. Those two characters being green in a meta where purple was the best thing ever, Ultimate Gohan and G4, hard times. And them specifically bringing up those characters means that they were watching everybody be in PvP like some kids in the playground, and they're like, damn, yeah, God Goku is just not great, man. We need to fix that. And then of course the revisions of ability text, or just the way they wrote everything out, is just not good. I would hate to be a new player in 2025. This is a lot of writing. I can't consume this. Now, if I was to give my thoughts on this newsletter, I think it's overall an amazing piece of work here. They were very honest, very straightforward, and got to the point with all of the issues that we have in Dragon Ball Legends. They haven't made everything open yet, so we don't know what exact changes they're going to make to everything. But the fact that they've addressed the issues that exist in game, not all of them, but a lot of them, shows that they have awareness for what's going on for the player base. The best time is for them to increase the quality of the game right before the anniversary. So we do have to go through some lows, but when the highs come around, they are super high. And if they do well with this, especially with how they just released the Battle 2.7 update, a lot of you guys didn't like it, but I liked it. I think with what they've got planned here, it's going to sync up super well, and the game experience is going to be amazing. I don't even feel like the 2.7 update did a lot, to be honest. I'm super used to it. So all in all, I'm happy about this. That's my main overall takeaway. I think they've gone straight to the point. They've addressed issues. They're going to make changes, and it makes me feel like I can trust the developers knowing that they have an awareness, and they've given examples for every single issue. They didn't just say, this is an issue, we're doing this. Because what if it wasn't that big of an issue, but they decided to address it? But when you give an example, it really shows that you understand the situation you're dealing with, and I really appreciate that they've done that. So overall, good job. And I even like at the end, they mentioned specifically Toshi and Tani. Toshi and Tani, Dragon Ball Legends management team. As always, we hope you continue to enjoy Dragon Ball Legends. They cooked up, man. Now, I do understand that this is an accumulation of issues that have built up over time, so it's not something they could have just fixed overnight. But what I will say is if they were aware of these issues, they could have definitely addressed it earlier. We are 7 years into the game. They could have done this in the 6th year. They could have done this in the 5th year. And honestly, it's just way worse now than it was then. But the issues were very noticeable if we look at things from the 6th year and the 5th year. You know, we're in 2025, 2024, 2023, you didn't see these issues for a while. Regen hasn't been a tag that is healing and is actually better than other teams because of their healing. So it's like, okay, why didn't you fix this earlier? I think the delay is an issue in itself. Maybe it would take too much hassle for them to fix it earlier. Regardless, I just simply don't like the fact that they took so long to do this, because these issues were bright as day. People complained all the time. They were horrible metas that we went through, and they kind of just let us suffer in the playground. But I guess they're fixing it now, so we can be happy. I don't really like here, man, take the update. I'm not saying it's that, but for sure this could have been addressed way earlier, and they could have been working on things or been honest way earlier. But I guess the way they've done it in bulk, it makes the game feel fresh all in one, but that's assuming they get everything right. But yeah, like I said at the start of the video, I'm not reading the whole thing for you guys. You guys will have to read it yourself and consume everything. This is not a read along. I just gave you my deductions and the key points from the newsletter, but it's worth reading. If you don't like reading, copy and paste everything and put it into a text to speech, a voice translator or whatever, so at least you can hear it, man. At least comment down below what you think, because your thoughts are very important, and I'm sure the developers do check content creators videos. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.